A very good morning to all of you present here. I would like to start by sincerely thanking each and every one of you for coming today and giving IAMAI your time as we present the 17th edition of India Digital Summit in partnership with Google and Message Board. My name is Prachi and I will be your host for today. We are happy to have you here and look forward to an engaging day of thought-provoking conversations and unmatched networking. To start with, here's a brief introduction of IAMAI and India Digital Summit 2023. The Internet and Mobile Association of India is a not-for-profit industry body that represents the entire spectrum of India's digital services businesses. IAMAI has over 450 plus Indian and multinational firms as members of specific committees such as digital transformation, digital advertising, logistics, edutech, fintech, gaming, and so on. India Digital Summit is a flagship event organized by the Internet and Mobile Association of India. With successfully organizing 16 editions over the years, we are proud to bring together policymakers, path-breaking founders, and influencer industries who will discuss and deliberate on India's digital growth story and the future of India across various sectors. The 17th edition returns to an in-person event centering on the Amrit Kal. As India celebrated 75 years of independence, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi proclaimed that India has entered Amrit Kal. Amrit Kal is regarded as an auspicious time for beginning new endeavors, achieving prosperity and reaping the rewards of one's workforce. India has also ushered in such an era on its path to becoming an economic powerhouse through the power of digital innovations, intelligent policymaking, and entrepreneurial spirit. We would like to thank our associate partners, Google and Message, growth partners, Paytm Ads, lanyard partner, Kalera, conversation media partner, Bobble AI, agenda partner, Disney Plus Hotstar, track partner, TCI, digital transformation partner, Accenture India, digital media partner, Accenture India, silver partner, CleverTap and AWS, bronze partner, Hexawebini, Mool1, Exotil, Notify Visitors, PaySprint, True Balance, and conversations partner, Value First. Moving forward, we have an interesting panel discussion on next-gen mobile gaming growth with SG. To tell you more, let me introduce our esteemed panelists for this session. I would like to welcome Mr. Sohn from Krafton, Mr. Piyush Kumar from Router Sports, Ms. Salone Sehgal from Lumika, Ms. Ishita Grover from OnePlus, and to moderate this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Unaise Urfi from KPMG. Over to Mr. Urfi. Whatever you feel comfortable.
Thank you so much. First of all, fantastic event, India Digital Summit. You guys have done a really good job. And I'm privileged to be part of this panel. I mean, some of you guys are shaping the direction of the industry in one way or the other, so it's fabulous. And 5G, as stated earlier, is going to be the next growth area, and where gaming is going to be heavily involved. We will discuss multiple topics around 5G and its impact on gaming industry per se. And we'd like to kick off this particular event with the impact of 5G on gaming. That's the first topic that we're going to have a conversation on. So this will probably go out to Piyush and to Sohn. And how do you perceive that how 5G will impact gaming?
All right. From a game publisher perspective, before we talk about like new technology like cloud gaming or VR, I think the fast connectivity from 5G will actually enable the less friction in terms of enjoying the new content. We saw dropping of user metrics whenever we have a big updates on the game. So if the 5G is more available to large user base, then I think people will have less friction to download new content, new game apps, especially large size apps like mid-core games, which has been kind of burdensome for new users to download and try. That's
Yeah, I think from our perspective, since we operate in the content space, the way we look at this is that it will overall improve the entire content flow, which means that right from the content creation, which should become much more seamless with 5G coming in, to the distribution which needs to happen to different platforms, and eventually consumption, which will become much better given the fact that there will be low latency and there will be less lags. So people will be able to enjoy live streams more, enjoy content more, and that would eventually enable them to increase engagement on content. So this is on the perspective of how we look at the content, gaming content in general. One of the things that we are very excited about is that we basically want to see more and more people become content creators in India. And I think with 5G coming in, it will propel a lot of gaming content, which should eventually make this huge creator ecosystem in gaming. And lastly, from an esports perspective, one of the problems that India has had for a long time is the fact that bandwidths are not similar in different areas. So people have to go to, say, sometimes to Chennai, to Dubai, or a few places to conduct LAN tournaments and have to depend a lot on better infrastructure. So hopefully with 5G coming in, people will be able to conduct more esports tournament, and people can participate in online tournaments from different parts of the country without having to sort of rely on a certain network. And that eventually will lead to more esports content, which should benefit the overall gaming community. So these are a few things that I think should happen.
Ishita, from a mobile phone perspective, OnePlus is known for its fantastic and efficient hardware, but software also plays an important role in it. How is OnePlus planning to elevate the smartphone experience for gaming industry?
So, I believe for OnePlus, something has always been core to us is listening to our community. Right from the start, when we, the first OnePlus was actually created, it was launched later, but the community members got it first. So that's the importance that we give to our community. Now, having said that, we've realized over a period of time that a lot of our community members, which is a big base of say 16 million people globally, at least 70 to 80% resting out of India, they are avid gamers. So it's definitely a need that we have seen, and over a period of time, we are looking at building hardware and software features which will fuel this growth. Small things in our products, right? Like the gaming mode. It's as simple as giving a gamer the ability to get calls or messages just with the notification so that he doesn't have to stop the game. And this was actually created with community members. Again, this was based on the feedback that we received. Then a pro gaming mode, which is you don't get disturbed at all. Right? These are the features which are small, which are incremental, but go a long way. Even on the product hardware perspective, because it's not something that we can give away with, we've added a lot of features which help benefit a gamer today. One is a higher refresh rate, which is 120 Hz. We also have our own proprietary gaming engine, which is called the Hyper Boost, which helps in frame stabilization. So these features ultimately move in to give a better experience, and over a period of time, and essentially in the last 2 years, we've built an ecosystem, and all our products across smartphones, be it even the newly launched category of monitors, our audio range, our TVs in fact, have been built keeping performance for gamers as one of the key criteria. So while we are doing a small bit, and I feel this is something which the entire smartphone ecosystem or most of our peers in the industry are doing. And having said that, I think even at OnePlus, to engage more deeper with the community, in 2020 we launched our first gaming IP, which is called Dominate. In fact, it was on a title by Krafton, and we are seeing miles to go. So I think working together with the entire gaming ecosystem is something which I feel that all players in this industry and need to do. I think it's become imperative, and I feel that together we are all better placed to give gaming a push in India.
Absolutely, I think that's fantastic. Salone, what has happened with this rapid rise in mobile telephony and subsequent increase in our bandwidths and everything? Our demographics have gone through a certain amount of change, right? And for the better, obviously, because as the demographics increase and more women and more children and people start taking gaming seriously on this front, do you think 5G is going to take it to the next level on this front?
Yeah, I think, look, the couple of things that have happened, right, in the India market, especially over, let's say, with 4G coming into place, and 5G is the next kind of generation, the next kind of evolution. Especially with 4G, two things happen. One is gaming usage and game time spent, and then also monetization, right? All of this really super powered. Now, we do at Lumika, we do a State of India Gaming Research Report where we essentially map the India market in terms of size of the market, in terms of number of gamers, and some of the statistics are incredibly interesting, right? India at this point of time has about 500 million gamers, out of which the demographics are largely 43% are female. These players are largely mobile, and they're essentially spending anywhere between 9 to 11 hours a week playing games. And it is more in some titles. So for example, for more mid-core titles, like at one point of time BGMI and Free Fire were commanding anywhere between between 70 to 120 and 130 minutes in one session length. So when you start to see that kind of usage, that kind of user behavior happen, it just what is current connectivity, what is current latency. 5G just acts as a super accelerant, right? And in terms of just demographic expansion, I think demographic expansion is very similar to what we've seen in the global markets as well, right? At least even for casual gamers, 60% of casual gamers are women. India's initially demographics weren't inching up to global average because smartphone ownership up until 2 years back was very heavily skewed male. However, in the last 2 years that has changed as well, and that has also meant that you have now a lot more demographics like women playing games. What is more interesting about demographic is, everybody assumed that the majority of the gamer profile is actually kids. Actually, in India, the gamer profile is 18 to 30 years old. That's the majority segment of gamers who are playing games. The profile of those are typically people who have graduated college or they're first-time professionals as well. And that explains the uptick in monetization that we're seeing as well, right? India is about a $2.6 billion market, heading up to an $8 billion market, and while 50% of it is RMG, and a lot of people at one point of time assumed that RMG was equal to gaming. That's not the case. The fastest growing piece of the total India market is actually in-app purchases. We're seeing behaviors of IAPs, we're seeing behaviors of Indians spending money on virtual goods, we're seeing early signs of virtual gifting and tipping take off. And now once you kind of put these data points together, you can see in this year actually in mobile games, revenue growth outstripped download growth for Indian games. Out of the top 25 grossing apps, revenue growth for 75% of them grew by about 50 to 60%, and it outstripped download growth. So when you have better connectivity, you're bound to see much more usage, much more time spent, also to a avenue of much more monetization as well, right? So I think it's all very, I think, probably a good time to be having these conversations with game developers, streaming platforms, hardware makers as well, because it is at an inflection point in terms of just demand and supply.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. I mean, as you see, I come from a firm in KPMG. We have started taking gaming seriously, so it's obviously we are at an inflection point. But Piyush, from your perspective, how will 5G boost your revenue growth?
So I think first and foremost, what we will definitely see is people spending more time in gaming, whether playing games or watching gaming content, which definitely directly translates to more monetizable opportunities for streaming platforms, for games in general. Second is the fact that, as Salone was saying, we are seeing a very diverse inclusion of non-core gamers into the community. So, for example, in casual games, women are actually more than 50%, if I'm not wrong, which basically means gaming is going to open up a lot of doors for many businesses and brands to reach out to women in a much more immersive way and a much more cost-effective way than, say, using sports or many other, those expensive models. So time spent converting into more ad dollars is a given, and we are seeing it ourselves. Second is the fact that this year we basically have also seen that pretty much every brand has a brief for gaming. And I'm sure Ishita, anyway, you guys are the leaders and you are thinking much ahead, but we were surprised to see HUL and PNG and I mean these kind of brands which are looking to see how they can engage with consumers using gaming. And since content is a big driver in that, we are seeing some amazing conversations, and I think many more campaigns will come. And last but not the least is the fact that as people will play more and engage more through content, the gifting, which what Salone was saying, is definitely gonna be taking off quite well. I think it's completely our responsibility to make that transaction much more smooth. And once that happens, we'll also see a lot of revenue coming from users. So these are a few things that I think.
Thank you. Very pertinent points. Ishita, how do you see it all elevating the gaming experience further from a OnePlus perspective? I mean, you just mentioned that you guys are the leaders on it, so I'm sure you have a plan in place, right?
I think, like I said, right, over the last 1 year itself, the kind of additions that we have done on our portfolio for gamers is something which goes on to say that it becomes an extremely important area for us to focus on. So I think I would like to clarify that we are not making devices which are only for gamers, right? There are players in the ecosystem who have only gaming devices, but our devices are optimized to deliver the best experience when it comes to gaming. During the pandemic, we saw a sudden increase, and like Piyush said, in casual gaming, right? Now, these are people who are just starting and their entire experience is getting elevated. That is the market that we want to tap into, and that is literally helping the ecosystem grow there as well by equipping them with the best experience. Simply from a smartphone perspective, in 2021, we took out a series, it's called the R series, which is linked to our flagship line, and it was just simply about providing a higher experience, which is optimized towards delivering a great experience for gamers. Similarly, smartphone is one, but then we just launched our flagship, upgrade to our Q series in TVs, and then also we've got a host of features which are built in for the gamers, right? Be it the refresh rate of the device, the latency. We also have a special application which was built, or a feature rather, which was built with the community called Gamepad. Now these are smaller, things which we are doing, but I feel that this will go a long way for a gamer to upskill, because casual gamers are upskilling today. And of course, needless to say, the kind of growth that 5G will fuel will play a big impact. Today, we are seeing a lot of people coming in from tier 2, tier 3 cities. Almost over the last 2 years, we witnessed close to 100 to 200% growth, and slowly with the research that you guys do, we'll probably bring that up. These are the people who need that support right now, from a hardware perspective. So our range of 5G product goes in from, say, starting 20K till about 60 to 65K in terms of smartphones. And at the same time, with 5G and the way the telecom operators, be it a Jio, which is just, I think, making 5G available to almost all of Bharat, say, today. It's not just limited to India. So it's, I think, like I said, it's coming together with so many people, be it with Piyush and then Sohn, everybody coming in and bringing in their synergy. So it's not just OnePlus which is doing enough, but I think as all of us together, I think are are probably the facilitators or the enablers of how the gaming industry moves in India or the kind of growth that we witness.
Excellent points. Sean, AAA games or high-end games, as we've been speaking about, are set to receive a big boost with 5G and with low latency and all. What are your thoughts around that, coming from publisher here?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said earlier in the beginning of this conversation, the smooth and faster connectivity from 5G will actually enable and encourage a lot of new game developers to look at the opportunity from, you can call it a AAA gaming experience or mid-core game experience. Like especially in India, I believe that the mainstream genre is still, in terms of user base, size of the user base, it's a card board games. Although BGMI and other battle royale games takes a significant portion of the market, but still large portion is coming from card and board games. But I think with the 5G network connectivity, it will encourage a lot of local and global game developers to look at Indian market as a proper proper market for like AAA gaming experience in mobile and also potentially cloud gaming and so on and so on. So I think that could unlock lots of potential for the market, and it will be also beneficial for gamers to enjoy better experience in gaming.
We also spoke about how we are increasing the gaming population. The demographics have gone through a sea change, especially during COVID, with older players, so people probably of my age are also looking into gaming and all. Now, you spoke about you do a regular study around that. Now, how has it impacted in terms of revenue generation, and how has it impacted on you using more artificially intelligent technologies or some of the other sorts? Has it helped you, Salone?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about, I guess, revenue trends across the board that we've seen, especially in the last year or so. And I think there have been a couple of things which have stood out, right? One is obviously just internet connectivity, a lot more time spent on gaming. But the second has also been the advent of UPI, right? UPI really unlocked monetization in a way that was not thought possible. As per the RBI data a couple of months back, 72% of all transactions volume are now undertaken by UPI. So out of all transactions in India, and that was just 1 or 2 months, but now in a market where digital transactions at one point of time used to constitute 10%, now it's nearly 50%, right? And even within that slice, half of that digital expenditure is actually going through discretionary sources. It's retail, entertainment, travel. So you just have people just spending more. And of course, when you have people spending more, when you have people consuming so much data, gaming is a very, very large beneficiary of it. And I suspect those trends are going to continue, right? We spoke to the folks at Jio a couple of weeks back. It's not just about 5G, but also cloud gaming, right? The next 2 quarters are going to be really, really I think it's going to magnify the impact of what are the possibilities for gaming in India, simply because of the tech and the infrastructure that is now being laid. And Jio's been a classic example of that. People, when they launched Jio, it was given for free. Everybody said, hey, no, nobody's going to pay for Jio. In a year and a half, they had converted 72% of their users converted to paying users. Now if we look at, let's say, telco ARPUs, between what Airtel and a Jio user, telco ARPUs are shrinking. The Jio user is starting to spend more, right? So I think this is a general trend of essentially revenue progression, and even within gaming, there are certain genres which tend to monetize much better, right? Which are also deeply influenced by the quality of the internet connection, right? So mid-core games, for example, tend to be driving revenue in India. This is at least what we've seen last year, right? BGMI, Free Fire were actually some of the top monetized titles. Also, it does impact when you have better connectivity, better latency, you've got uninterrupted access. You can imagine what that does for revenue generation going forward as well. And when you've got IAPs already growing at 30%, you've got India's being the fastest new paying user growth, let's do the math on what that constitutes over the next 2-3 years, at least what we expect. Now, in terms of AI and ML, a lot of this is, sometimes it's jargon, sometimes it's not, so, who knows. There are a lot of funds now talking about generative AI, etc., and how that's going to disrupt game development. I think that's more of a, how do you make game development, game asset creation easier? There's a lot of talk of how content creation can become much more seamless with Gen AI, but I think that's a little bit of a different. That may or may happen irrespective of whether 5G rolls out or not. But I think with 5G usage, time spent, monetization increasing is fairly a no-brainer, I would say.
Thank you. This was very good. You spoke about cloud gaming, so that brings me to probably the last topic that I wanted to have a discussion on. Cloud gaming also entails directly to multiplayer experiences, right? And this topic is for the wider panel, whoever wants to pick it first. Multiplayer experiences is where the revenue generation is probably, in my understanding, towards the maximum side, right? And whether it's a AAA game or a mid-core game, a multiplayer experience and 5G will pretty much go hand in hand. So, any thoughts on that?
I think from my perspective, I'll be very honest, we want more and more games in India. So we are counting a lot on Sohn and everybody. Sudhir is here from Nazar. I think, we are also talking to a lot of studios within India which are creating some incredible games, whatever little we have seen. And whether it happens through cloud gaming or whether people imagine mobile gaming first without really looking at translating a PC or a console gaming into a mobile version, that should propel a lot. So my limited answer here is that we need a lot of games to come in different avatars for this industry to take off, for which I think everybody needs to support, right from the government to everybody, because that's how job creation will happen. Job creation won't happen with 1 or 2 games or by having different kind of experiences. So yeah, that's what I think more need, and we are counting on all of you.
Thank you for all the nice comments from Piyush. I feel the multiplayer gaming experience is very core part of India's India gamers gaming experience, because we are saying that India gamers took mobile as a first gaming platform. From their, for their life as a gamers, it's quite different from other markets like China, Korea, or US. So I believe, as also publisher, we found that when users stay longer in a single title, they tend to spend more, and then they become more engaged with the game. And then it become long life game. So I think 5G infrastructure will actually enable those experience more seamless, more frictionless, more enjoyable. So then there will be more games to come out and try to get the market share from the market. So so I think that's the basic but the most important impacts from the 5G in gaming. Yeah.
Any last thoughts before we take some questions from the audience? Salone, Ishita.
Yeah, I'll just talk, I think what Sohn said is really important, right? Like the India gamer is essentially social, they're essentially multiplayer, right? Because in the Indian gaming sociology was very different from that of Western markets. The Western gamer went through the evolution of, arcade games, PC games, console games, mobile. They saw various business models where they went, saw PC paid games, then they saw free-to-play games, now subscription gaming, right? The India gamer was a first-time mobile smartphone user, and they were exposed to everything from video chat, social media, gaming, audio chat, all at the very first time. So the sociology of this gamer is inherently social. And why does a Ludo, for example, have such mass appeal? You know, it was a board game which translated into a digital experience, but it was essentially multiplayer. It was essentially social. I could play it with my family, I could play with my friends. Even with BGMI, you see audio chat, and chat is often a great way of really changing the trajectory in terms of engagement and retention in a gameplay, right? You have people meeting through the game, you have people dating via the game, right? And gaming experiences. So I think that is very important to understand, especially as even when we talk to game developers, is how to design or think about market entry for the India gaming, is to think about, you know, how do you appeal to that social gamer. And often which games do well in India is a factor of two things. One is, you know, what is essentially trending in the world, and typically we've seen there is about a lag of a year and a half, or whatever's trending in the global markets then arrives at India. But that's the first essential indicator of what's going to do well in India. The second is the game developer support, right? Is the game streamable? Is there investment in esports? Is there going to be building around the larger community? Have the streaming platforms taken it up? Have game streamers started to organically find the game? You know, in the middle, Among Us took off really because it was just a very streamable game. So it really depends on two factors, you know, A, what's trending globally and how long is it going to take to come to India, and then second is, you know, how does it go to the larger ecosystem, because Indians don't consume games by downloading on the App Store. That's not the gamer behavior here. It's word of mouth, it's social, it's network effects essentially. And that's why I think both points are very important for social gamers, right?
So thank you so much. I mean, indeed, gaming industry as such and 5G will make this world a little smaller place. I mean, you took an excellent example of Ludo. I mean, it's a cross-border love story more than anything else. It was in the newspaper today in the morning. But anyways, thank you so much for your thoughts, all of you. Do we have a couple of questions coming from the audience? Yes, please.
Hi everyone, this is Muskan. So again, listening to your esteemed thoughts, what just came into my mind that this gaming industry is increasing rapidly. The investment in this industry is increasing rapidly. So it is attracting a lot of advertisers, right? Because it is offering you a lot of session time with the customer, right? So where investment is, where money is, fraud follows. How much is the gaming industry ready to protect the users and the brand's advertising? Is my question. Like, how safe is it? How safe the environment is going to be there?
I think it's more on security aspects.
So I can speak on the perspective of content. So moderation needs to be extremely well handled, and something that we do at Router quite a lot. We have solved it through different tech features, where similar to other platforms you can report and the person can get blocked or the content can be blocked, etc. Then we have a feature through which whenever somebody is going live, they can add moderators right before they go live. So you can add up to 10 moderators, which a lot of content creators are now using. So then they are rest assured that there are people looking after the streams, because at the end of the day it's a very premium content. And third is we also have our own set of moderators which are ensuring that they skim through different content and do it. But completely with you that if we don't take care of the brand's ethos and the safety of people who are following the content, this won't fly. So we are very conscious about it. And I'm speaking on behalf of the content and streaming platforms. From a game perspective, I'm sure they can add.
To be honest, the games that we are publishing in India or globally is not very ad revenue-driven game. So I can just speak on a very general, high-level basis. I think it's getting more important. I think because the different government, different region have now new policy around user privacy data. Including India. So I think as a gaming company or any other tech company, I think we are looking at this issue more seriously. And then at the same time, we try to target the right user for advertisement. That's, I think, the ad tech company or gaming company who rely on ad revenue actually doing right now.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Sudhir here from Nazara. I don't know how the 5G rollout will work out, but assuming it works out as all rollouts, it will be in different phases and some cities, towns, villages will lag, right? Does that lead to a second order effect in terms of some places having good 5G and others don't? And how does that change both from a developer perspective as well as maybe streaming perspective?
I think with respect to 5G rollout, it's already live right now in about 130 odd cities at the moment. And I think this is the endeavor of the telcos to be able to see and map essentially speeds to be able to fix potential like latency issues that could come up. I let Piyush and Sohn answer specifically for what we're seeing in with respect to whether some spots will be more powerful versus the others.
So from a streaming perspective, what we have seen is a lot of people are relying a lot on the telco, as in the bandwidth that they get from 5G services rather than broadband. So that makes them very flexible in terms of content creation, which I think will happen more because you'll be much more mobile when you are playing and streaming, and you can add a lot to the content. So that is one. I think from a consumption perspective, clearly we'll see different behaviors wherever 5G will be rolled out first, and it will be much more smoother because fact of the matter is that data, how good is data always determines how much content you are consuming. I think the biggest difference will come in esports. Of whatever little we have worked and learned from different esports partners, they struggle a lot on organizing different tournaments and the overall the overall construct of the tournament where there is a fair play depends on a lot on what bandwidth different teams and different players are getting. And if 5G solves that problem and India gets too many games, esports is going to explode. We'll see thousands of concurrent tournaments happening, and it's all going to help businesses which are into streaming and content.
I think it's a very good point for game publishers that actually service the multiplayer games. But at the same time, as Piyush briefly touched it, the good connection on one side and bad connection on the other side doesn't. So then things are not getting better. I mean, things are still stay same. Actually, we've done some research on the user experience and latency issues when 5G rolled out. I think when there is enough coverage. Enough coverage means like at least in big, 6-7 cities, if there is enough 5G coverage, then maybe we need to do another research whether this actually improve the user experience. But still at this moment, I don't feel that the 5G rollouts enough to make any impact on the user experience from the gaming company perspective.
Anyone else? I mean, 5G has the potential to make us leaders instead of followers. We are currently followers. How it goes about. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick and I am from a metaverse company called Queplan. So my question will be more oriented towards the metaverse thing. First of all, metaverse gaming is no new. I mean, this is very recent, but companies like such as OnePlus, they have optimized their hardware. Gaming developers, including myself, we have optimized our solutions according to that. However, with the evolution of the technology, with the development perspective, Unity, Unreal, Unity came with lower graphics, but the games were heavy. Then Unreal game engine came in with hefty graphics and hefty file sizes. Now, how is, obviously the hardware people will increase their RAM. We start with 1 GB RAM, then they'll go to 128 GB, etc. How is the gaming development community inclined towards optimizing? Obviously, cache issues will also be taken care of. How are the other methods you are going to take this into perspective to solve the gamers' experience?
An interesting one. Yes, it's quite a complex topic.
It's a tough question. So we also have internal projects which we try to provide a tool and a platform that creators can create their own metaverse. That's what we are doing right now. There are still like maybe 12 months or longer to launch in the market. So from developers' perspective, we had some, so it's a very dilemma. Like you want to provide the best experience to consumers, or you want to optimize the performance and the file size so that you can reach out as many as you as possible. So it's a dilemma. Then we chose slightly tilted toward, we want to provide this more optimized experience to larger user base. That's the actually the approach that we have taken. Given the benefits of metaverse is actually coming from the larger user base. That's what actually we've taken, but maybe different company might have different ideas. Yeah.
Hardware people will avoid this question.
Well, it's easier solved in hardware, right? So, anyways, any further question? I don't think we have much time left. I think we have overshot ourselves a little bit on this one. But thank you so much. Thank you all of you for joining me over here. I think it was an absolute pleasure. We have another thing. Yeah. All right. Thank you.